Welcome to another edition of Journey of Hope. Stories of people from around the world that have been impacted by the healing ministry here at Loma University Medical Center. Our title is Journey of Hope. Journey is not a destination, it's a process. People that come here for many different reasons. Our special guests today are Bill and Marilyn Hargrave from Prescott, Arizona. They've got a very interesting story and an interesting background. Bill and Marilyn, it's good to have you here.
Glad
we
to
have
be here,
people
Lynn.
from around the world that are watching. We'd like to learn a little bit about your background, where you're from, what you've done, what kind of business you were in. But why don't we start with you, Marilyn? Where are you from?
Originally, I was born in Iowa, grew up in Pennsylvania, returned to Iowa for high school, and after getting a teaching degree, moved to California and spent almost 40 years there.
And you're a teacher, a retired teacher.
Retired.
Okay. And Bill?
I'm originally from New York, moved to Texas when I was about 5 years old. My father moved the family and went all through school there and finally graduated and moved to California and stayed there for over 40 years and moved to Prescott, Arizona about a year and a half ago and built a house, and we're happy as a clam.
Oh, that is great. Now, what, for the people that are watching here, what kind of work were you in?
I knew you'd ask that.
You knew I was going to get to that because you have a very interesting background.
All right. I have a degree in marketing, which has nothing to do with my vocational work in California. I got into the motion picture business in the mid-'60s and stayed in it for a little over 40 years until 2003, the end of 2003, and then decided to retire.
Well, I made the mistake of calling you a producer one time, and then I realized that no, you weren't a producer. You were in the sound, and
That's right.
Tell us what you were doing.
I was a sound technician, and I like to refer to myself as someone who worked for a living, not a producer or an actor or somebody like
there's
that.
There's a big
There
difference.
is a difference.
Right.
That's right. Well, I got into the business as a studio electrician because back in the mid-'60s, it was so busy. The industry was so busy, they were literally hiring people off the streets. And
just a big demand, completely
absolutely.
Contrary to what it is right now.
Oh, yeah. Right now, it's very, very difficult to get in. For the last 10 years, it's been very tough. But in the mid-'60s, I mean, they had so many shows, and so they needed so many people. And so I got in. I was working in a clothing store, making $3 an hour, and I met a guy and in the store one day, and he says, "What are you doing?" And I told him, and he says, "Hey, I can get you in the motion picture business." I said, "Where do I sign up?"
Just like that?
Yeah, well, just about like that.
Yeah.
And he told me where I should go and who I should talk to. And so I did that for a few years, and then
what were you doing early on? I mean,
Well,
you really had limited experience, I would think.
Well, it's all on-the-job training.
It was
all on the job. You have no training for this. I mean, I don't care what you do, whether you're a cameraman or an actor, there is no training for it. You just get into it and off you go. And so when I did get in as an electrician, I got in for a while and worked my way around and got to know a few people. And decided I'd like to be
anywhere else, it's
Absolutely.
kind of networking and contacts and developing friendships, and,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
doors begin to open.
They opened, and I had a few opportunities, and I decided to take the sound opportunity, and it worked out really well. I worked a lot. I really worked a lot.
And when you
you
talk about sound, what are we talking about?
production sound, working
sound.
right on the set with the actors, with the director, recording the dialogue.
So you were involved in shows or in
Yep.
programs or in movies or
Movies, television, commercials.
what are some of the ones you were involved in?
Well, let me go back to the beginning.
Okay,
Did you ever hear of a show called F Troop?
I'm not sure that I have.
Okay, F Troop was a TV series shot at Warner Brothers back in the mid-'60s with Forrest Tucker and Larry Storch.
Okay,
And that was the first show that I was ever on. It was just amazing to walk in on the stage and all the lights and this and that and the other thing, and the actors, and they tell you to go to work and go up high, where we had all the lights. They used to light everything from up high on what we call the green bed. And all the lights were up there, and you had to focus the lights and diffuse the lights, etc., like you were supposed to do. Something on the ground was to tell you what to do. But it was really interesting, and so I did that. And after that, I bounced around for a lot of shows. That's what they did with people when they needed help on various stages and various shows.
Would they move them from one to the other?
I used to do. I went from F Troop to Camelot, to picture Camelot. Then I went over to Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Elizabeth Taylor,
Richard Burton. That was a good experience. Richard was a great guy. Elizabeth was a little tough, but she was a star, and deservedly so. Yeah,
right?
you got to take care of her. Yeah. And where was I?
So you're telling about some of the programs you'd worked with, and you're starting way back in the back.
Well, I just wanted to start back then to
moving
give,
forward.
Yeah, to give people an idea about how far back which is not that far back, but it is for a lot of people. That's a lifetime. You know, 1965
well, we're
when I started.
40 years ago. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And so you're involved in many movies over the years, and
Lots.
day programs,
Yeah.
and one thing and another.
Oh, sure. No, it's and fortunate to work with a lot of good people, and enjoyed it. But you get to a point, as in any career, you get to a point where you say, you know, enough's enough. And so I decided to retire in '03, and I have not regretted it one bit.
So, and this, not only did you retire, but you made a move at that point.
Yes.
From the LA area
Right.
up to Arizona. Complete difference between LA area and Prescott, Arizona.
Very different. Very different.
Not only different geographically,
Right.
but I imagine the culture is somewhat different there.
Everything's different. One thing we like to think about, the difference, is there are no freeways, which is terrific.
No freeways.
No freeways, just state roads. And we'd looked all over the country for places to retire. And we decided that with the right set of circumstances, that Prescott would probably be the right place to go. And we made the move, and we built a house up there. In fact, we just completed the house, and now we're looking forward to getting back and living in it.
So you moved to Prescott, went through a number of experiences. And I understand that there's been some health challenges along the way, not only the current one that you were facing, but that you had some health challenges. Why don't you tell us about that? Because there are people that are watching that, you know, they've just discovered something about themselves. They've just encountered some kind of a problem. And, you know, our health really is not appreciated until you begin to lose it. And then people really begin to appreciate something that they no longer have control over. So what kind of challenges have you had, Marilyn?
Well, realistically, I like to say I'm healthy. I'm never sick. I just have structural defects.
Structural defects.
Structural defects. Truly, the only serious illness I think I had as a child was strep throat. And after that, I don't get the flu, I don't catch colds, I don't get sinus infections, but I've had a lot of spinal problems. So I've had lower back surgery and neck surgery twice, just dealing with disc-related pain and suffering.
Well, I know years ago, when I'd hear people complaining about a back problem, I used to think, you know, they were kind of a hypochondriac and, you know, it can't be as bad as all that. And then one time I had my own experience where I was hiking and I picked up a pack and I kind of felt something snap, and, you know, it all but laid me up for a few months. So you've had, how many surgeries have you had?
3.
You've had 3 surgeries. This is on your back?
My lower back, you know, when you mention that about thinking people are hypochondriac, I swear when I finally had the back surgery, I said to people, it's like you finally think they don't think you're crazy anymore, because you keep going to doctors saying, I have headaches every day, my back hurts all the time, I have muscle spasms. And I was athletic, so I worked out at health clubs and rode bicycles and played tennis and, you know, tried to be active, did some jogging, did walking. And I used to think, well, maybe it's athletic injury. But the reality was, my lower back, I just had a disc that completely blew out, where a lot of them herniate. This one just completely blew out, and they had to operate on that.
Was this, how long ago are we talking about?
It was 1989.
1989, so
And
we're talking
frankly,
20 years ago.
it was 5 years of pain before we got to that diagnosis.
You know, it's been an ongoing problem with her, you know, and I'm almost to the point of trading her in on a new model.
Almost.
I'm thinking about it.
Because, I mean, you know, when somebody in the family has a problem, it becomes a family issue. When somebody has a back problem, it's not just the person that's got the back problem, but the whole family is involved. So but you went for 4 or 5 years without having any kind of help. I mean, did you think you were just
Not
going to have to
really.
live with it?
Pretty much. The frustration that I found was that, honestly, because I was healthy, I didn't have like a regular visit to a doctor. So whenever they would see me, once a year, once whatever it would happen, I would be in muscle spasm or something. And frankly, the treatment was always medication, and it got to a point where the medications were just stronger and stronger, but the underlying problem never went away.
Pain was still there.
Yeah. And so,
And are you kind of getting almost to the point where you're zonked because of the medication?
Yes. Yeah. When you get to the Percocet, Percodan level, or at one point when the latest neck surgery, IV drips and all kinds of things, it's awful. So.
Well, and it does have an impact, Bill. I mean, you know,
That's true.
It's very, very difficult to even be able to comprehend and to be able to put up with it and to know what's real and what's imaginary, and it's affecting your life. And so when you've had 3 surgeries, when was your most recent one?
2006.
Yeah. Couple of 3 years ago
Right,
then.
right.
Okay.
Which is probably the one that's done the best job.
And
you know.
that's, you had the best response
Yeah.
from that.
You know, what you say is true, Lynn, and what it boils down to is having a strong relationship. Because if we didn't have a strong relationship with her problems ongoing through the years, and now my little bump in the road, as I like to call it, I don't know what we would have done, really. And it's
She might have left you.
you know, it could have happened. It could have happened. That's right.
No,
That's
I
right,
mean,
right.
you're
That's right.
absolutely right. I mean, it really, unless you have the strong relationship to keep you together
Yeah.
and supporting and for better and for worse. And when you take those vows, you're only thinking of the better, and you don't think that the worst is ever going to come. But when you are affected by this, it does affect you in a very dramatic way. So 3 years ago, she had her last surgery. Things are going better.
They are.
And things are going good for you. And then you get some sobering news.
Yes. Isn't this wonderful? Well,
What did you find?
well, the unfortunate, first of all, my father had prostate cancer.
Okay.
And so I was the perfect candidate for prostate cancer, as are my 2 brothers. I have 2 younger brothers. Actually, when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, it wasn't that big of a shock to me because having the tests through the years, the PSA test, my PSA level was gradually rising. So I sort of put 2 and 2 together, and I said, well, you know, if I dodge this bullet, terrific, but if not,
The
it's gonna
likelihood
happen.
is going to be
But
there.
you know what? We have come so long, such a long way in the technology of treatment of cancers and whatnot that I knew that if I did have to be treated, that I would get the best treatment and it would be curable, and which it is. And I have all the faith in the world that I'm going to go home and I'll be as healthy as I can be for the rest of my life.
So, how did you learn about Loma Linda?
Well,
Even though you're from California.
That's true. That's true. Well, you know, it's funny. Not many people know about Loma Linda. When you talk about having cancer, prostate cancer, people know about radiation.
I'll interrupt
What?
though. We know about Loma Linda because we hear about the neonatal center, you know, the heart treatments. You've heard of the hospital, but as far as the actual
But so
proton
you,
That's right.
being in
That's
California, you knew about Loma Linda
I
and the
suppose generally,
institution,
but not
It's kind of in the
specifically.
background,
right?
but not
Yeah.
not specifically.
not specifically
about
about cancer. So how did you learn about Loma Linda then?
Well,
I mean, as far as treating cancer.
it. A friend of ours in Prescott had been here 5 years ago and had a successful treatment. And I finally got around to talking to him about my situation. He says, Loma Linda. And I said, Loma what? He says, Loma Linda. So I said, okay. And so he went into great detail explaining this and that. And he gave me Bob Marchini's book, and he sat me down and gave me a heart-to-heart talk about the whole situation and what my options were. And then I took it, you know, many steps further. I went to the Mayo Clinic and looked at robotic surgery, and we talked to...
So, I mean, you actually
Yeah.
flew back? Or
Oh,
went
no,
to
no.
Mayo there
In Mayo
Scottsdale.
in
Arizona
Phoenix, in
there.
Scottsdale,
Okay.
yeah. And and the surgeons were very open about everything. In fact, the one that we met with, I forget his name now, but when I asked him about proton therapy in Loma Linda, he says, that's fine too. That might be, you could do just about whatever you wanted to do. He says, but I'm offering this, you know, I can do this, and I guarantee you it'll be successful.
What he was saying is that there's many options out there
That's
for
right.
you.
That's right.
He said,
That's right.
I do surgery, and
Yeah.
this is what I'm comfortable in doing, but there are some other options
Yeah.
you need to take a look. Well, that's good.
And my urologist was a younger man, and he was very open to everything. He said, I can do this. I've done hundreds of these operations, or you can do this. You can do just about almost what the surgeon in the Mayo Clinic said.
Mm-hmm.
But when I learned about the side effects, and in fact, I talked to my brother-in-law in Lafayette, Louisiana, 10 years ago, had prostate cancer, and this was not available. At least
Sure.
he didn't know.
Wasn't aware of it.
Yeah, wasn't aware of it. So he had the radical prostatectomy. And I called him, and he said, Bill, he says, whatever you do, don't let them cut on you.
He was pretty clear.
He says, this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, and he says, you don't want any of those things. And then I was watching television one night, and Larry King had Robert Goulet on. Now, Robert Goulet, I happened to work with Robert Goulet on a couple of things, and he was a man's man. He was a great person. And but he didn't take care of business. He didn't have the physicals, he didn't have the PSAs, and when he finally discovered he had prostate cancer, it had metastasized through his whole system.
So it was really too late when he found out about it.
That's right, but what did they do? They went and jerked the thing out of him. And so he had to wear a colostomy bag, and he had a diaper, and the incontinence and the erectile problems that he had were unbelievable, and so he died shortly thereafter. So when you see those things, and you ask yourself, well, gee, I mean, I know that surgery is an option, but I don't think most men would look forward to anything like any of those side effects.
Sure.
I mean, really. So we opted for Loma Linda, and it's just been a great experience.
You know, there are people that go through surgery, and
Yeah.
they are very successful. And we have a Department of Urology here, and they do surgery,
Yep.
and many of the patients are doing very, very well. But you were led to come to Loma Linda.
That's correct.
Now, and you were here at the same time that many other people were being treated for cancer.
Right.
And usually when you think of people being treated for cancer, you think of people that are sick and struggling and some of the side effects that they're experiencing. Tell us about your journey while you're here. You finished your treatments now, and you're going to be going back, but tell us about what was happening while you were here, undergoing treatment.
Everything good was happening.
Everything
Everything
good.
good. You know, I think I speak for most of the people that have had the treatment. When you're here in Loma Linda, first of all, you don't know what to expect when you get here, but once you get here, you realize that it's really, I hate to say this, a piece of cake.
Okay.
Because it was like a vacation. It's like a vacation being on a vacation. I play golf 2 or 3 times a week. We play tennis. We go to the support groups, and we just have a wonderful time. And you don't know that till you get here. Now, I was told by Bill Morrison, the person who advised me to come here, that it was like this. But you don't really understand and realize it until you get here.
I mean, you talk to
Yeah.
some of these former patients, they try to describe,
Yeah.
and you kind of come here wondering, well,
That's right.
yeah, I mean, was I sold a bill of goods?
Is this really the
for
thing? Yeah,
real?
yeah.
Well, Loma Linda is committed to treating the whole person, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And as you've discovered, we try to have a balanced program. We try to involve the patients. They're involved in the healing process. So while he's being treated, what are you doing all this time?
Well, it depends. Sometimes I'm doing my household chores.
How about nothing?
How about nothing?
Yeah.
I go to the gym, go to walk. When he's out golfing, we've done some touring a little bit. Since we're from the Southern California area, that wasn't so important to us, but we met with people that we had known when we lived here. Little antiquing, that's kind of a favorite pastime of mine. Reading, relaxing. Frankly, we had been under such pressure to get our house done to get here for treatment. I needed the rest.
Well, yeah,
So the
I understand
vacation
that. Yeah, a
portion
lot of
of
things,
that.
and you build a new home.
Don't get me started on that. Holy
you
mackerel.
build a new home, and if anything could go wrong, it did go wrong. You ended up coming here
right.
just about the time you completed the home. So we're glad to provide a break for you.
Yes.
And
We were in 3 days, Lynn. 3 days before we had to come over here.
So, and how long had you been working on the house?
Oh, for a
year.
year.
For a year.
For a year.
In 3 days before you showed up here for treatment, you were able to get into the house. So
Right.
I am to assume that you're not completely settled in your home.
No, as a matter of fact, when we got here, there were many, as there are a few loose ends now that we'll have to take care of when we get back. But there were a lot of loose ends when we first got over here, and we were very frustrated because here we are in Loma Linda, and the house is in Prescott, Arizona. So what do? I mean, you rely on your relatives, you rely on people to do the things they're supposed to do. But it worked out. Everything worked out terrifically. I mean, we were very fortunate, and we just talked to the right people. We got things were in the right places to do the job.
But isn't that kind of the way life is?
Yeah.
I mean, there are challenges all the time.
Yep.
If it's not the back, then it's prostate cancer. If it's not prostate cancer, it's something else. If it's not the house, it'll be the job. And there are people that are watching that have encountered all kinds of things. And, you know, when these things come at us, what can we do? What can we tell them to do?
Be positive.
All right?
Be positive about it. Get checkups. First, especially men, or the guys that are watching and the wives that are watching also, need to advise their husbands or their mates or whatever to after they get 40 years old, to be sure to have a physical every year and have the PSAs and have all the work done. And that's what I did. And fortunately, when they discovered that I had the prostate cancer, it was in its very early stages. And that's what you have to do. You don't want to wait and put it
So,
off.
yeah, your friend that you were talking about on TV,
Exactly.
he'd waited, and by the time they
Exactly.
found out, it was, you know, it was too late.
Yeah.
I mean, even no matter what kind of a treatment he would have had, he probably would have had some problems.
That's right, and I try to maintain a positive attitude, and as you know, when we play golf, I like to have a good time. And
Yes, and you do have a good time.
I do, and
you hit the ball a mile.
Thank you very much, and lucky though.
Yeah, but you're so consistent with
Well, I am consistent, but you know, it's you can choose to be miserable, you can choose to think about your mortality. And be negative, but why? You know, because you affect other people that are around you, as Marilyn has said to me many, many times. And why not be positive? I mean, I relate it to, with Marilyn's problems, with my problem, to if something goes wrong, it's just like a car. When a car has a problem, breaks down, what do? You put it in the shop. That's what we do with our bodies. When we have a problem, like Marilyn, put her in the shop, get her all fixed up again, and then she'll be as good as new. And that's what I feel about my prostate cancer. You know, it's just a little bump in the road, you get treated, and then you go on with your life.
But, you know, the challenge is, and you're right, it is kind of a bump, and things that come along our way
Right.
are often bumps. But what you're saying, it's a matter of choices.
Right.
We can't choose what we're dealt with, but we can certainly choose how we're going to respond to the things that come our way. Marilyn, how is his having cancer going to make a difference, do you think?
I think, almost honestly, it's not. We find it strange to say that because we think other people take it more seriously than we do.
Well, some are devastated by it.
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah.
We have never felt devastated by it. Partly, I think, because we have learned to know about our health. We feel that if we wait for medicine to come to us, like my issues with people dealing out prescription medicine instead of getting to the root of the problem and fixing the problem, we've just kind of taken it upon ourselves to learn a lot about it. So we were so confident that this was a very treatable cancer, that this was the treatment, that to us it doesn't seem to make an impact. I mean, we just believe it's working. We believe it's gone, and we're moving on.
Well, to
Well,
make a
they
long
provide
story,
you a little opportunity to come over here where some of the things
Right.
can be finished on your house.
yeah, that's right. To make a long story short, she hasn't looked for a replacement yet. That's what she's saying. That's what she's saying.
So good to know.
Yeah.
I'm glad to know that. Well, how are you going to be different now in the future when you go back from here? Are you going to be different at all? You're going to know about Loma Linda.
Well, I'm definitely going to know about Loma Linda, and I'm going to tell as many people as I can about Loma Linda. In fact, my brother called me the other day, and he has a friend of his that's got prostate cancer. I mean, advanced prostate cancer.
It's already advanced.
Yeah. And he said, do you mind if I give him your name and number? And I said, no, absolutely not, because it's treatable. I mean, that's the thing about it. People they hear cancer, and immediately what they think is, oh, you know,
Death.
death,
Yeah.
Mortality. Imminent mortality, imminent death. But it's not. And prostate cancer is very curable, and but you got to get it in the early stages. Even the advanced stages, it's curable now too.
Well, many, in fact, most of the cancers now, they've come so far, they're able to treat that. When people come here, one of the things we try to help them to realize that, you know, they've been face to face with their mortality. And I tell them, you know, the good news is you've been diagnosed. And the reason is, the good news is they now know they have cancer and they can do something about it. The bad news is they're going to die. And the important thing is, what are we going to do? How are we going to live? Instead of talking about how we're going to die,
That's right.
how are we going to live?
Yeah, we're going to live our lives as the best we can, and go on with everything, and thank God that we were led in the direction of Loma Linda to take care of this problem, and that we didn't listen to other people that said, "Oh, you got to have it out. You got to have it out." That's the initial reaction from a lot of people.
Sure.
Is that surgery, just get it out of you
quickly. And you know, for the audience that's watching, I think one of the things that's really come out of this interview is the importance of taking responsibility for your own health.
That's right.
And kind of watching it and monitoring it. And you know, you've gone through a couple, 3 surgeries now, and right now things are going fine, and you are maintaining your health, and you're exercising on a regular basis, and you're conscious about what you're eating and drinking, and conscious about taking care of your health. And so for the audience that's watching, we're learning from Bill and Marilyn that all along they've been very conscious of watching their health and taking care of it. They're exercising, they're getting the fresh air, and they're enjoying each other. And there's a commitment to each other that when problems come their way, they're going to see their way through it. And for those of you that are looking on and watching television, there may be people that just now, this week, you've been given some sobering news. I want to tell you that God has a plan for your life. Look and seek and keep yourself open to the counsel of others. Come into contact with people that have been treated for the same thing. God will lead you through. Thank you for being with us.